Hello, Wakelet friends. I'm Tisha Poncio, Digital Learning Specialist at Wakelet, and I am excited to share with you two of some really great people that are going to talk to you about student accounts today, Wakelet student accounts. First up today, we have Callum. Of course, you know Callum from the Wakelet team. Callum is going to go over some technical pieces, show us how to import student accounts. And then we have the incredible Brian Jones joining us. Hey, Brian, we're excited to have you today. So I'm going to just pass the mic over. Callum, if you want to do an official intro, and then pass the mic over to Brian to do an official intro, and then we can show some examples, talk about some technical things, discuss all of the things about student accounts. Go ahead.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Callum, and I'm a product manager here at Wakelet. So my job is just to try and help make Wakelet the best platform possible. Really excited to be here and share student accounts with you. And feel free to share any feedback in the chat, and we're always listening and always watching. So I'll hand over to Brian.
Hi, my name is Brian Jones. I'm a 5th grade teacher in Kentucky. I dove into Wakelet about 2 or 3 years ago, and then really started using it with my students this past year. My students created their own accounts, and just watching them curate their own ideas and their own resources was just amazing to watch this year. So welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I have a question, Callum and Brian, for both of you. So feel free to jump in. The question I have for you today is, what do you see is possible when using Wakelet student accounts?
Should I start, Brian? I'll go first. I think it's really exciting because Wakelet previously has been a little bit, students couldn't really use Wakelet for themselves and actually be empowered to create their own research and their own thoughts and showcase that. I feel like Wakelet, now that students can be empowered to have their own accounts, they can really demonstrate the sort of the 5 C's and show their digital literacy skills, and hopefully showcasing the work that they're doing with people in their class and hopefully parents as well.
And Brian, what do you see possible in your classroom now that student accounts are available to you?
My students this year ran with it. As soon as they were able to create their accounts and log in, they took it and just ran with it. I've never seen kids so excited to curate their own ideas and their own thoughts and their own resources into one place as I was the kids I had this past year. Just their comments that they kept saying about Wakelet every day was just amazing because it empowered them to take charge of their learning. They were in charge of their resources to find and curate those ideas based on whatever topic or concept we were studying that day. It was just awesome to watch them.
That's great to hear, Brian. What I love about what you're sharing is that you're working with 5th graders. And a lot of times people will ask me, I don't know how I can utilize Wakelet for the K-5 age group. Will you have some examples that you're going to show us today so that all of our viewers will be able to take your ideas and maybe showcase that in their own classrooms?
I do have 3 students Wakelets ready. How do you want me to share those links with you? And I do have 3 resources ready of what my kids were able to share and do this year.
Okay, that's perfect. Callum, do you want to go over an intro to student accounts and then hand it over to Brian? Thoughts?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, I'll run through how it works. It's pretty simple, so I'll run through it quite quickly. But everybody feel free to ask questions in the chat. I will be sort of monitoring that, and Elle is in the chat helping out as well from Wakelet. So I'll share my screen now, and if you could let me know if you can see it. Can you see that? Are you able to see my screen here?
Yes, Callum. I can see it.
Cool. So yeah, Wakelet, this is your Wakelet homepage, very similar to how you see it. I've got all of my collections that I've created here and all of my spaces. But we've added a new option into the three dots just in the right-hand corner of your Wakelet screen called the admin panel. And what this essentially allows you to do is create accounts for your students. So we've been listening to feedback over the last year about how people are using Wakelet with students, what activities they're setting, and how they sort of use it in their day-to-day lives. And we've found a few issues with the way that people used to use it in terms of it might take a little bit of time. Students couldn't really benefit from the whole platform that Wakelet is. So we'd worked really hard behind the scenes to make a platform that is COPPA, FERPA, and New York CD law compliant, and make a really safe and secure way for students to have accounts, be managed by their teacher, and for the teacher to be able to have access and really keep track of what the student's doing. So just to walk you through this, I'm going to click the admin panel, and this is where you can see all of your classrooms. So right now, I already have 2 classrooms in here, but if you're new to using this, you won't have any classrooms right away. But if you want to set up your classrooms, all you have to do is hit import groups. So right now we have 3 primary options of how you can create accounts for your students. These are Google Classroom, Microsoft, and Clever. So you really wanted to make it easy for Wakelet to sort of fit in your day-to-day with the platforms that you already use. So we worked with Google, Microsoft, and Clever to make this available for you and make it really, really quick and easy for you to set these accounts up for your students. So I'm going to walk you through how it works with Google today on screen, but it does work very, very similar with Microsoft and how this works. And just after this presentation bit, I'll talk you a little bit through how it works with Clever. So here, I just hit sign in with Google Classrooms here, and it'll give me the option to sign into my Classroom account. So what Wakelet will do here is basically connect your Wakelet account with your Google account, and Wakelet will sort of scan Google and see all of the classrooms that you have in Google Classrooms. So I'm just going to hit sign in here. I've signed into my Google Classroom account, and it will come up with all the classrooms that are in my Google Classroom. So as you can see here, there's already quite a number of different classrooms that have been imported. You'll see the ones that I'm yet to import that I want to set up accounts for my students. So for example, I have a maths class, we have test class 2, we have classroom 10 available to import. So here you can select all of the classrooms you want to import, or you can sort of manually select which ones you want. So here I'm just going to select 2 of them. I hit the import button. And what Wakelet will do now is basically take those student accounts that are in Google Classrooms, and in one quick process, like you've just seen there, set up accounts for your students. So that means that your students can just go to wakelet.com, hit single sign-on with Google or Microsoft, depending on what platform you've imported them from, and they'll just go straight through to their Wakelet account. They don't need a password, a username and password, or email. They don't need to remember yet another email and password. Just hit single sign-on and we'll go straight into their account. Just to show you really quickly here, on these, I don't actually have like a full classroom here. This is just a test account, but in a real life setting, you'll have like all of your students with their name on here, and you'll be able to access the collections that they create. So for example, student 1, I click there, and I can see all the collections that they're creating in their Wakelet account. So it's a really good way for me to keep track of the collections that they're creating. I can also potentially set them assignments or activities for them to do. So for example, I might want them to do some research on, I don't know, the American Revolution or something like that. They can maybe set that in Google Classrooms or whatever learning management system you use. They can go to Wakelet, curate that, and then you can actually, and do whatever assignment you want them to complete there. And you can actually access the collections that they've created very quick and easy via this panel. We also allow you to remove students from here. So for example, if a student left your class, or you maybe imported a student that was an accident, you can actually just remove them from the class really easily like so. And we just put them in a removed option for the time being. But if you actually accidentally remove them, you can actually really bring them back within a 30-day period as well. So they come back into the class. Just really quickly, unless Tish and Brian might have a few questions, or some people in the chat have a few questions we can run over. But just really quickly, I wanted to talk through Clever. So Google and Microsoft work very similar in the way that they work. So you'll connect your account, you'll do the imports, and you'll set up the accounts for your students. And then when the students' accounts have been set up, they just go to wakelet.com and hit single sign-on. The only difference really with Clever is that the students just have to access and sign in to Clever via the Clever app in the Clever Launchpad. So you as a teacher just need to add Clever as an app for the students, and then they can just sign in straight away through Clever. I hope I covered all the basics there, Tish. Is there anything that you think I should go over?
Yes, Callum. So I have a couple of questions, but the first thing I would love for you to do is go back and show the viewers how to get to that original admin panel. So when you log into Wakelet, you'll see that home screen. We see Callum's collections, his followers, his spaces. And then over to the right, you see the 3 dots. He's going to click on that admin panel. So that is where you're going to find that import option. And then Callum, there were a couple of questions about how, like, could they import from, for example, Canvas LMS? When are they going to be able to import from a CSV file? So lots of people are wanting to know if any of those things are coming along the way in the future.
Yeah, so this feature is really new, and it's quite a big change for Wakelet. It's been something we've been working on behind the scenes for quite a while. So what we've tried to do is release it in a way where we can get it out as quick as possible so people can benefit from it and also use it for the start of the school year. We have heard lots of feedback around more ways that you can create accounts for your students. So we are looking into adding a way to manually create accounts, so like you can do it one by one if you wanted to. Potentially import CSV. We've heard that for quite a number of times, especially for those people that might use Seesaw or other platforms where you might have to like sort of export the students from that list and then import them into Wakelet. And also, we've heard options for like ClassLink, Canva, different platforms like that. So yeah, for sure, we're definitely looking into those ones to add in the future. It probably won't be for the start of the school year, probably soon after that. But the more we hear feedback about this, the more likely that we're going to add it and the quicker we're going to add it. So yeah, it's great to hear that feedback, and we'll definitely listen to that and hopefully get that in as soon as possible.
I know they're so excited about student accounts on the chat. It's hard to keep up, but there is one really great question here. They want to know how students are able to see their accounts. So once the teacher, if I'm the teacher, I go into my Wakelet account, I'm importing from Google Classroom or Clever. How do my students know that they are part of my class?
Yeah, great question. So in the first release, we've made it so that students, once their account has been imported, the teacher will just tell them to go to wakelet.com. They'll hit single sign-on and they'll go into an account very much like what I see here. It's very similar. They have their Wakelet account. They have all the collections that they can create. There's going to be a few different features that we've removed from their account. So we've removed the ability to search Wakelet. So that was something that we needed to be compliant. So we removed the search function to keep the students safe and not make them come across content that might be above their age category. And we've also removed certain features in the create collection process. So we don't allow you to add from YouTube. We don't allow you to add from YouTube within Wakelet. So you can still like go to YouTube and paste them in, but you can't actually use the function within Wakelet like you can right now, and a few other features like that. And at the moment, the students will just be able to see their collections. One thing that we are looking at releasing for the start of the school year is having sort of a navigation similar to what Spaces works like, where students can see the classrooms that they're in. So for example, in the case where a student is in 4 different classrooms, they'll just see 4 different classrooms on the left-hand side, and then they'll be able to create collections where their teacher can see those collections in that classroom. So for example, this would be Classroom 1A, and the collections that I'm creating for Class 1A will be in here. And my teacher of Class 1A will be able to see all of my collections.
So another question, Callum, that I know Elle hasn't sent over to me, but as a teacher, I'm always thinking in that mindset. If I have my student Julie, and I'm using student accounts with Julie in my classroom, and then Julie goes over to Brian's classroom, and Brian also wants to import Julie, is that possible?
Yeah, that's totally possible. In that sense, Tish, you would have set up Julie in the first import, and then when Brian imports that student again, they'll just join that class, and then they'll have like a classroom set up on the left hand side for them, and then they can create classroom collections in that classroom for their teacher.
And so, Callum, just to hit on the safe and secure, because as an educator, when I'm looking at any feature, any digital tool, I know a lot of our viewers are thinking the same thing. Can you just reiterate again for those watching, how are these student accounts more safe and more secure than before?
Yeah, so previously on Wakelet, if you wanted your students to have accounts, they had to be over the age of 13. And if they were over the age of 30 and actually created an account, if they created collections and made them public, anybody on Wakelet would be able to find those collections. So we really wanted to keep it safe so that the students' work is safe. Like obviously, there's loads of different compliances around confidentiality and keeping the students' work private. So what we've done is that if a student account is set up and they're in a classroom, the collections that they make are only visible by the teacher and the students within that class. So for example, if I was a student and I created a collection and then shared it out on say social media or elsewhere, that collection will not be accessible by people outside of that group. Likewise with Wakelet. So as many of you might know, if I make a collection public, that would be findable on Wakelet search. So we're not putting them on Wakelet search for anybody on the web to be able to find them. So keeping them safe and secure in that sense. We're also making it so at the moment for the first release, the teacher has to create like collections for them to collaborate on. The students actually can't collaborate between each other. We wanted to do that to make it so that the teacher can always keep control of what the students are doing. We know that sometimes in the classroom that students might sort of do things behind the teacher's back and then start collaborating with maybe other students and do something a little bit mischievous. So we wanted to make it so the students couldn't do that. It had to be on the discretion of the teacher. But we are going to be introducing permissions, hopefully relatively soon, where you as the teacher can say, actually, I'm happy for students to collaborate with other students. I'm happy for them to share their collections with other people. But for the first release, we really wanted to make it safe and secure so that, people outside of the classroom can't get in. And you as the teacher can always see what collections the students are making at any time. So you can keep a track of the work they're doing, the content they're adding to Wakelet. And if you want to, and you feel there's something inappropriate that has been created on Wakelet, I'll stop sharing now. If there's anything that's been created inappropriate on Wakelet, you can actually just go into their account and delete that collection or delete that content. So you have control over everything that they're doing.
I think that's really one of the best things, Callum, is you're giving the teacher the control and the opportunity to really have those conversations with their students in real time about digital citizenship, digital behavior, information literacy. I think that's really important. Our friend Stormy Daniels is watching. Hey, Stormy, and she has a question for you, Callum. Will students be able to record Flipgrid inside of Wakelet using their student accounts?
Yeah, that is a great question. So as part of like the copper compliance and making sure that students can access platforms through Wakelet that are over their age category, we've actually had to remove the Flipgrid Shorts camera from Wakelet. So the way the Flipgrid Shorts camera works right now in Wakelet is that when the student records a video, it sets up an account on Flipgrid so that they have their area on Flipgrid, its Shorts camera, and they can record. But in Flipgrid terms of service, you have to be over the age of 18 to create a Flipgrid account. So right now we've taken that functionality off, Students can still record the Flipgrid videos in Flipgrid and paste the link in it, and it still works.
Yeah.
But we are going to be hopefully be adding permissions at some point in the future where we turn them off by default, but you as a teacher can say, actually, we know that there's this risk tied to using Flipgrid. We know that like there's it's over the age of 18 to use Flipgrid in Wakelet, but I, as a teacher, I'm happy for the students to use that, so I'm going to turn that back on. So there's quite a big piece of work in terms of permissions and you sort of turning back on features that we've turned off to keep the students safe. That to your discretion, you can turn on. But again, that'd be like sort of if you've had permission from the parents or you as a teacher, like, yeah, that's fine. My district or school are happy for us to do that. Then that's up to you. But yeah,
and there was.
question.
Yeah, that's always one of the questions I'm answering as well. People love to app smash Flipgrid and Wakelet just because it's so powerful. So there was one question about Google Classrooms, classes being archived. I just happen to know this question. I think that what you'll have to do if you've archived any of your previous Google Classrooms, you'll have to unarchive those so that they show up when you're in Wakelet to import those classrooms in. So that's just really a quick question, Callum. Do you have anything else you want to add? Anything just off the top of your head that you want to share with our viewers? There's so much coming in. Again, it's really hard for me to keep up with the chat. We're on YouTube and Facebook today, Callum.
Wow. Well, hey, everybody that's joining us, it's a pleasure to have you join, and hopefully this is useful. But one more thing that I have that I'd like to share really is, and it's come from a lot of feedback that we've had from teachers and what they think Wakelet can be used for and what they're excited to use Wakelet for. And a lot of it is around, obviously, like I mentioned before, some of the digital literacy skills. A lot of people talk about the 5 C's and demonstrating those skills through curation. But one of the big skills that people are quite excited by with Wakelet is the ability for students to create a portfolio on Wakelet. Yeah. So one thing that we have is, obviously, like I said before, we have the classrooms that we're setting up. So you'll be in maths, science, English class as an example. You might be creating collections in those classes. But we also have a profile or like portfolio page where where the student can actually be like, actually, I'm really, really happy and proud of the work that I've done in one of these classes. I'm going to add this to my profile page or my portfolio page, where they can showcase all the best work that they've done. They can maybe even see their progression, how they progress through the year. I think it's a really nice reflexive piece and something their teacher or parent can look at and be like, wow, here's some really nice work that they've completed. And I think hopefully what we really want to see is students learn life-ready skills by using Wakelet that they can promote and showcase. And I think something that we're bringing in hopefully relatively soon, probably more so towards the end of the school year, is the ability for the students to actually take ownership of their account once they leave and take that with them after the end of the school year, so they can keep hold of all that amazing work that they've done and maybe even use that to apply for jobs or showcase their skills or apply for college or whatever that might be. So yeah, really exciting.
You know, I'm a huge fan of portfolios. And if anybody is watching that knows me, that's exactly what you want to happen. You want those students to create those portfolios and take ownership and continue on. Wow, Callum, you have so many great ideas. I just don't, I wish everybody could like sit in on some of our brainstorming sessions, because Callum has so many incredible ideas, you guys. You are going to love them all. I can't share all of them with you, but be watching on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, because what's coming is incredible. So I think we're ready.
I'm not sure what happened there. It sounds like Tish has just dropped out, so we'll just wait for a few minutes. Hopefully she comes back in. There we go.
I'm back. We're having issues with connection, Brian and I both. So I don't know if Brian's backstage, but I think we're ready for Brian to showcase all of the things he's doing with his 5th graders. Do we know if Brian is back there? Callum, are you guys still there?
I'm here. I don't know if El's manning the
Okay, this is what I'm going to do, Callum. I'm going to share my screen, because one of the things that I saw in the comments as you were talking was everybody wants to start this portfolio project with their students. And what I love about this is that I'm seeing everybody from kindergarten through high school and higher ed really wants to use that student account feature for portfolio. So I have a couple of things on the back burner because I'm always prepared, Callum, for loss of connection. So I'm going to showcase a couple of things for you. I'm going to share my screen. You just let me know, Callum, if you can see what I have going on. I'm going to do the entire screen because I just find that it is safer to do that. So can you see this? Are you there?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so this is a graphic that I revamped from Community Week, Callum, and it's the benefits of Wakelet student accounts. Again, Callum really touched on that it's safe and secure for any age. That is why I love it. If you aren't ready to do student accounts, you always can go back and do the invite collaborator and have your students still collaborate with you. But this is a great solution for those students that are under 13. Also, as Callum said, you have educator setup and moderation. That means you have control. You will always have control of what's happening within those student collections. And then being able to offer your students a place to create, right? We want to move our students from completion to creation. Then a space to give them the opportunity to show you what they've learned and also to use that space to present from. Another really great benefit of student accounts is that you are going to see those students' collections and their peers are going to see those collections, but they are not public to the outside world. When you're thinking about collections, and Callum, you'll have to tell me if I'm wrong here, but just thinking in that educator mindset, if I wanted to share some of those student collections out with parents, I should be able to have the student download that as a PDF, and those collections will still be clickable. And then, of course, number 5, and Callum said that we're going to improve on that, is importing from Teams, Google Classroom, and Clever. Lots more to come with that. Do you have anything else you want to add, Callum, on the safety and security of Wakelet accounts?
No, I think you covered all the bases there, Tish. Can't think of anything else. It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty locked down. But like I said, we're going to be adding more features that give you, again, as a teacher, control over what your students can do.
Absolutely. So Callum, I can't see you right now, but you let me know if Brian's ready to come in. I'm just going to keep flowing to share some examples with our viewers. This is an example of Australia research, and this teacher put together a collection and shared that collaboration link with students so that they could add in any pieces of research that they wanted to this particular collection. This would be a great way to collaborate with your students. I'm going to show you another way that you could use those student accounts. So if you created a collection that was a lesson plan, for example, this is just one example, but I've put in the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills here. So any state standard that you have, and given a very short assignment, you can have your students go copy that collection, and then they can go put in their own information so they can do their own research project. As you can see on this, Jace was doing math. He was learning how to map out the length of time it would take to drive from Dallas to San Antonio. So he was able to learn that. There's lots of different ways to utilize this, but I love the copy feature. If you know Priscilla Heredia, she loves to use that copy feature, Callum, for her students because it just makes it so easy. There's a template there. And then, of course, all of you said you were going to do portfolios, and here's the example of student portfolios that I have shared time and time again. I just checked on Julie, Callum, this week. She was one of the first ones to use Wakelet as a student portfolio, and it is linked to her business webpage now. So she has definitely grown with her Wakelet collection. And then another way that you can just use Wakelet, I just wanted to showcase this incredible collection that Elle made for Wakelet PD. This is an example of just making a hub for your students. You could put templates here, and they could go make copies in their student accounts. Any feedback, Callum, from that, or any questions? I know I went through that really quickly because I want Brian to share all of his examples.
Yeah, I think just jump straight into Brian.
Yeah, let's go, Brian.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me okay.
Yeah, all good, Brian. Yeah, all good.
All right. So fifth grade history, U.S. history, and we basically did a timeline all year long. And as we teach on concepts and certain content, my kids would just add to their. I'm sorry, Marcus.
Yeah, I think we're having a few connection issues.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's okay now, Brian. I think.
You think you're okay? So here is just one example of U.S. history from one of my kids. You can see that there's some articles and videos about colonists, government enslavement, and I didn't micromanage this. I kind of left it up to the kids for them to decide what their categories were going to be or what their topics were going to be inside of their Wakelet. And everyone did something different. You know, there's different amounts of items in each one. They've got videos and articles and then text that they just brought over themselves. We talked about copying just a second ago. They're able to copy and paste text right in the Wakelet. And then here's another kid's. This is a specific collection. As you can tell, everything this is all about leading up to the Revolutionary War. But my kids, like I said, they absolutely loved it. One of the things they loved about it was so easy to use. There was not many hiccups as far as like how do I use the program. They were 10 years old. My kids, 9, 10, 11, and they were able to figure out the program without me having to do much.
Brian, can you hear us?
I can, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Maybe so we're going to send out those links that Brian shared later. I think what we'll have you do, Brian, is maybe just verbally talk about it. I tried to pull those up, and of course they are private, as they should be for your students. But if you can stop sharing and maybe just just reshare what you just said, because you were breaking up a lot for the audience. But we want to definitely even show, if you just want to share screenshots, we can send that out for our student or our students, our viewers. So the first collection, Brian, what was that?
So can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
The first collection was from a kid that she had all of her collections organized based on topics that she came up with for U.S. history. I did not micromanage what their topics had to be or what the collection names had to be. I kind of let them run with that and gave them the ownership. And that's what good teaching is give them ownership of something and let them run with it. So the first one, she had her collections were colonists, government, enslavement, democracy, branches of government, constitution, road to revolution. And then the second one that I shared was just all about the road to revolution. And inside that was all kinds of articles and videos and then text that child had copied and pasted over. One thing that my kids loved about it is they said it was a great place for them to go kind of self-guide and self-study. So if they knew they had a quiz coming up and they were struggling with one concept, it was real easy for them to go to their Wakelet, look at that one concept, figure out what they needed to hit on before that quiz came up.
Awesome. And Brian, I know
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you. I remember when we had a conversation a few weeks back, didn't we, where your students use Wakelet, and we had a chat about, like, we actually spoke to the students. So myself and a few colleagues at Wakelet, we actually spoke to Brian's students and from his school, and we actually literally spoke to them and sort of heard their feedback from sort of like the horse's mouth, as so to speak. And their feedback was really, really inspiring, and it just seemed that they really enjoyed using Wakelet. And I don't know if you have anything else.
There's all their feedback. They had three pages of feedback for you guys, so it was pretty amazing to hear them talk about the program. The biggest thing that I kept getting from the kids is this program. This is so easy to use. It's so user friendly, and with kids, it has to be user friendly, because if it's not user friendly, then they lose interest.
Hey, Brian, I have an educator question for you. So just let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
When you are planning to use Wakelet, to integrate Wakelet into your classroom, where are you typically beginning in that planning process? How does that planning look like when you sit down before you ever present that to your students or put it in your learning management system? Can you share with our viewers a little bit about that process, whether it's lesson planning, instructional design? How do you decide which way your students are going to use Wakelet?
So once again, I think it's giving them some ownership. And so let's say I'm getting ready to talk about the three branches of government in U.S. history, or in U.S. government. I'm going to give them some articles, some websites in the Wakelet, but I'm going to allow them to kind of do some research as well and add information to their Wakelet for that collection and let them guide their own learning. Because I remember when I was in school, if I was told I had to read these 3 books on a certain topic, I would lose interest rather quickly, because if I didn't like the way those books were written, then I'm not going to want to read them. Where if you give a kid some ownership and allow them to figure out what best fits their learning style, whether it be a video, whether it be an article, whether it be one paragraph from some text that really fits what they're trying to learn, giving them that ownership. So I start off planning based on what concept I'm teaching, and then I allow the kids to kind of run with that, and I kind of make sure they're headed in the right direction. Yeah, you give them some ownership, but sometimes you have to rein some kids back in and say, you're headed in the right direction, or maybe, hey, what about going in this direction?
And then I have one other question. I know a lot of our viewers are saying your sound isn't as clear, but just keep answering as best as you can, and maybe speak slowly. That was Marcus's suggestion. Do you have any suggestions or examples that you can share with our viewers on implementing Wakelet with social emotional learning, or implementing Wakelet with team building activities, maybe some back to school activities that you could do with your students at the first week, the first month, just some getting to know you things?
I actually do not have any social emotional collections in my Wakelet. But I don't think there's anything wrong, once again, with kind of the style of how I went about using Wakelet this year, giving them some resources for social emotional, allowing them to use those resources, but also allowing them to add to it. Let them develop their own social emotional collection inside their own Wakelet. Allow them to research and figure out some ways to bond with their classmates. Allow them that ownership of figuring out how to, with your guidance, figuring out how to socially interact with their peers.
Brian, one of the most fascinating things that I find just as you're speaking about your fifth grade students, you're giving them so much ownership. And I don't find very often that educators in K through 5 do that. So I would love for you to just explain for our viewers a little bit about how do you create that culture of student autonomy in your classroom? Because if I were walking into a fifth grade classroom, I'm not sure I would give them as much ownership and choice. I would want to control everything. So I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Trust and guidance. It's all about trusting the students and the students trusting you. And then guidance whenever you've given them that trust and maybe they've taken it in the wrong direction. So yes, you have to trust them to do it, but you also have to be the big guy in the background, making sure that they are going in the right direction. And whenever they don't go in the right direction, say, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, because we're all going to go in the wrong direction at some point in time. But how about we steer more in the direction that I need you to go in? So it's kind of that guided direction with a whole lot of trust of, hey, bub, I trust you to do what you need to do for this because I know this is your learning and you're going to take charge of that learning. So that would be my big word, is trust. Trust that they're going to do the right thing. And then if they don't, then just steer them in the right direction.
That's great advice. Honestly, great advice for no matter what grade level you are teaching. Callum, do you have any questions specifically for Brian?
I don't really. I think one interesting thing was Brian's class was a credit to him. The team were really like inspired by how creative and how creative, and the feedback they give was just like really like how articulate, creative, and precise the feedback was. And yeah, the team were really inspired when we spoke to Brad's class, and it's been really interesting feedback. And we talk about that, and we actually want to implement a lot of the feedback that's been given. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
So can I share how I plan on using it differently this year?
Yes, that was my next question.
I'm so excited. I'm shifting gears a little bit this year, and I'm teaching math instead of U.S. history, which math is my love. And in education now, there's so much about intervention. Intervention. How are you going to intervene with kids that are struggling? And how are you going to intervene with kids that are not struggling and need to be pushed higher? So I have myself and a team of kids that are going to be meeting the week before school starts. So some of my kids from this past year. And we are going to create categories for each concept that I'll be teaching in math this year. So each standard that I'll be teaching in math this year. And my hope is that my kids that I have this year will do a whole lot of individual, just lost my train of thought, intervention. So my kids in my classroom will know, and math is my love, and it's what I love to teach, and I've taught it for years. Last year teaching U.S. history was one of my first year teaching it a long time. So I'm so excited. But in my math classes, my kids know what concepts they're struggling with. And I will continue to guide them to my Wakelet that I have already presented, and I have already curated. And so let's say I'm talking about adding fractions with like denominators. One of my kids know they're struggling with that. I will have a Wakelet full of videos, articles, games that they can go to during class to work on that particular concept. It's that self-guided intervention that I am really looking forward to the kids doing this year. And using Wakelet will help them so much because they're not going to have to look for where are my resources if I'm struggling with this concept. I have it for them already. I can send the link in the chat real quick to you guys for my Wakelet. I think you should be able to view it. Because I've already started with that and I have concepts ready for math. to show my team that I'm gathering together at the beginning of August, which is full of kids, to help me curate these ideas. The other way I'm using Wakelet this year in my classroom, and I'm sure things will change and I'll add more ideas as the year changes, but I'm also going to be teaching reading this year to my homeroom classroom. And one of the things that I can't stand in a reading classroom is kids trying to find books that fit them. Because I've got 15 shelves full of books. And no kid in today's world wants to go walking around to every tub because everything's so digital in their world. Kids are on iPads, they're on gaming systems. Everything is in their hands nowadays. So getting a kid up out of their chair to go look at 6 different tubs to find a book is just not realistic in my mind anymore. So I started creating, and once again, my team of kids that are coming to help me at the beginning of August are going to help me curate all these ideas. Each reading book tub in my classroom, and I have 55 of them, will have a Wakelet collection. And in that collection, so I already have one started, and I think one of you retweeted it on Twitter. So my mystery book tub has its own Wakelet collection, and in that collection is a book trailer from YouTube for every book that's in that tub. So if you're a kid in my reading classroom and you know that you would love to read a mystery book, and all you have to do is go to my Wakelet. You could even do this at home. You don't have to be in the classroom to find your book. You can go to my Wakelet, click on the mystery tub, find one of the videos that you might think you might be interested in, and watch the book trailer for that video. And then in the morning when you come in my class, you go straight to that book tub, pull that book out, and it's yours to read. So I'm so excited about the self-guided intervention for math and just the easy way for kids to find a book for them to read in my classroom this year.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Brian, because one concept that comes up all the time when I speak to educators anyway is all around personalized learning. Obviously, students are at all different stages of learning and knowledge on different topics. But the interesting spin that you've put on it is that actually they can choose what their personalized experience can be, which is really interesting. So yeah, I thought those ideas were really cool.
I'm trying to share.
Oh,
I'm
Brian
trying to share my Wakelet with
you. Yes, with
Marcus, so that way you guys can pull that up. Yep.
Brian, I love that you are just putting those students in control. It doesn't matter what content area you're teaching, history, math, reading, the whole goal that you have in that classroom of culture is for them to be in charge of their intervention, to recognize where they need help, they know where to go. And then the book tub, like that whole idea is incredible. I love that idea. And lots of people over on the in the chat were really excited about that idea. Okay, Stormy is asking, can we paste Brian's portfolio link so that they can follow you? So they want, Stormy, I'm guessing you want to follow Brian over on Wakelet, so maybe we can get his profile over into the chat. You guys can follow him. You can see all of his public collections, but I'm willing to bet if you reach out to Brian, he will share some screenshots of those private collections that he was trying to share earlier, because I know those you guys wanted to see those as well. Any last words, Brian or Callum, before we kind of wrap up and go to some final questions from our viewers?
I don't have anything to add. I think everything's been covered from my side, and some really amazing ideas shared. So yeah. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything to share.
I'm checking the chat as well. I know Elle and Marcus are helping with the chat. The chat is kind of crazy now that we're doing YouTube and Facebook, which is good. Crazy is good. Let's see. Oh, welcome to team of 21st Century Training Needs. I see that comment. They wanted a little shout out there. The era of digitalization. We're excited that you have joined. Karen says her niece prefers physical books. And I agree, Karen. I think what's interesting, Brian, is that you are really just meeting kids where they are. I've always said this, but teaching and learning is not a one size fits all. And I think that's what Wakelet student accounts really offers student or teachers in the classroom. You can create this space for your students and they can use it wherever they are. And the thing is, Brian, your classroom is probably one of the most innovative because you are offering those students this space to be creative, to be innovative, and to think of ways to help you make your classroom culture better. I think you are on to something really incredible. I would love for Brian to present in person, maybe at a conference. Brian? I'm volunteering you, but I don't know which conference, so I don't know. we need to get you submitted to a conference so that you can share this with people in person, because I think you have really incredible ideas to offer here, and just really leading in that student account space. We really appreciate you. And maybe Brian is gone, but Callum, we really appreciate what Brian has done with his students. Getting feedback from students is the key. They're the end user. I mean, we as educators are using Wakelet and we are the end users as well. We can give you feedback. But when students are able to give you feedback in a constructive way, just like Brian's students did, not only is that benefiting you and your team, Callum, but imagine how incredible that is for Brian's students at 5th grade to be able to share with a team what they love and what they want improved.
Yeah.
Talk about real world learning.
Yeah, it was so inspiring when we did that session. One thing actually I wanted to add just before we ended actually was one thing we've not mentioned today was just the immersive reader. Obviously, like we've said before, students are at different levels of learning. Maybe often English isn't people's first language, and the immersive reader from Microsoft has really helped us have equity in the classroom, like foster equity in the classroom, where if you share an article or anything like that, and the student maybe needs a bit of support, the immersive reader can give people support because it can translate it to your maybe native language. It can read it aloud for you. So I think that's really an interesting one as well as we move towards peer-to-peer like feedback and collaboration. If a student creates a certain collection, another student who's viewing that can actually be able to consume that in a way that if they need help, they can get it. So I thought I'd just jump on the immersive reader because it's just an amazing tool.
Yeah, I agree. Brian, do any of your students utilize immersive reader in your classroom?
They did not last year. Hopefully dive into that this year since I'm teaching reading as well.
Yeah. Wow. You have so many cool things you can do, Brian, with reading and Wakelet. Like as a former English teacher, that just makes me so excited for the possibilities. Please keep sharing on Twitter. I know all of our viewers are following you now, probably on Twitter and on Wakelet, so that they can see all the great things you're doing. But please share your journey and your experience. Maybe put together a Wakelet, journal that experience for us so we can follow along in your reading journey.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I put some links to the Wakelets in the private chat for Marcus. One to the reading tub, and then one for one of my math intervention collections. I don't know if he's able to share those or if those links work. I think you and Callum can probably see those as well. I don't know if you can click on them and see if they open up. They should be public.
Okay. Let me try it and see if I can open it on my end.
Yeah, Marcus said he's been sharing the links, so they should be in the YouTube chat. So hopefully everybody can benefit from all the great collections you've created.
Sweet. And those of you that are online listening, those are a work in progress. Keep in mind, I'm bringing a team of students together because I'm a firm believer in many of them are just as smart as I am, if not smarter. So they're going to be coming in and helping me in August finalize these collections for my reading tubs, my math intervention. And I do plan to have, I don't know if this will happen 1st of August, but before the school year's over with, I will also have reading intervention collections as well. And those will be student guided individual learning opportunities for kids to intervene with their learning process.
Wow. I'm so excited for that. And I'm not even your student, Brian. Callum, parting words?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for everybody that's joined today. Really happy for all the people that joined and shared their questions. If we didn't answer any questions today, feel free just to drop us a message on Twitter, or feel free to contact us on our emails. So I'm sure Marcus can drop those in there as well. We're always happy to help. We're always happy to support. And we are going to be making lots of improvements as we go along. So student accounts is going to amp up. We're going to have lots of new features there. And Wakelet in general is going to be improved across the board. So stay tuned. Keep sharing your feedback. Keep sharing your ideas. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Go ahead, Brian.
And Marcus, you are welcome to send my email out as well. I put that in the private chat, and then my Twitter handle I put in there as well. So you're welcome to send both of those out. And I will respond for those of you that have questions as soon as I can. So.
And I'm just going to throw out there, if any of you have any teacher friends, educator friends that you're sharing Wakelet with, and there are any questions about data agreements, training, any questions about the Student Ambassador Program, the Wakeless School Program, you can email me, tisha@wakelet.com, and I will reach out to your district leaders, your curriculum directors, your tech coaches, to make sure that you and your students are able to use Wakelet and utilize all of the incredible features that Callum is working on behind the scenes. Okay, I'm looking to see if we have any questions. Are you creating those trailers? And Anne-Marie wants to know, are you creating those trailers, Brian, for each book?
I'm not creating them. They're all on YouTube.
Yes.
I have found that almost every book out there, especially scholastic books, there's either a created book trailer or a student created book trailer on YouTube. So that takes a lot of the work out of it. You just got to YouTube and you just need to go to YouTube, find the link, and then embed it into your Wakelet collection.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Like Callum said, reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're everywhere. I know Brian is willing to answer any questions that you guys have about reading, history, math. What does he not do? I'm not sure. He does everything. See, he's in his car about to go somewhere else and do something different now. Thank you, Brian, for joining us. Thank you, Callum.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.